You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another episode of Nostalgic Gaming Stories, a series where I talk about nostalgic gaming stories. Who'da thunk it? So today I'll be talking about The Sims, which is a series I played a lot as a kid. I primarily played the console ports, being the Xbox version specifically, of The Sims and The Sims Bustin' Out. However, I will go back a little bit further before getting to that story. My first exposure to The Sims was at my friend Eric's house. He had one of those old Windows 98 computers, which wasn't really that old when I was a kid, because this was around 3rd grade or so it would have been 2001-ish, so it wouldn't have been that old. But it was the computer he had at the time, and he had The Sims, and specifically The Sims Hot Date expansion is what I played first on his computer. We entered a bunch of cheat codes and would play the game that way. I didn't really play it a ton, I kind of watched what he was doing in it. And then later on, Dozermac actually had it on his computer, and I played it a little bit on that too. Specifically, he had The Sims House Party expansion. But then later on, I would get the Xbox versions of The Sims, and then later The Sims Bustin' Out, and I briefly tried the Herbs, but that one was really boring for me. So, we're going to be primarily talking about the console versions. For a lot of it, I would, do things like make serial killer characters, where I would just, kill people with the fireplace. That's really the only way I knew how to kill people, to put stuff in front of the fireplace. And if you put the hot tub in front of the fireplace in The Sims 1 and have them burned to death, you can actually have them spawn in nude. So that was something I used to do a lot as a kid, because I thought it was really funny. And I would create, completely different families for each Sims game. I would try the story mode on both the original and Busting Out, but not be able to complete either one because they're fucking annoying. It's crazy to think that these console ports of The Sims had fucking story modes. You don't really see that in later Sims games or earlier Sims games. But Busting Out was the one where I created a character by the name of Vlad Blamud, and he's been sort of a recurring character I've played in The Sims since then. I still only play those two Sims games pretty much. I don't really like the newer ones as much because, I don't know, probably nostalgia. Vlad Blamud was an old man, and he was a mad scientist. Later on, he was a wizard. He's a serial killer. He has no door to his house. You could only get in through a secret passage. He didn't need money. He summoned the magic gnome to get money, which is how he became a wizard, was through the magic of the gnome. He had 2 wives originally, both of which he later died. And he sort of became the incarnate of evil. Later on in my storyline, he died and was resurrected. He had a daughter that became just as evil as him when she grew up. It's very similar in a lot of ways to Jim Pickens that Call Me Kevin does. I'll admit there are a lot of differences, but it's a character I came up with when I was, 10 years old, is when I came up with Vlad Blamud. But that was always fun. The Sims is a very fun game when you want to kill time and just kind of, relax. The Sims is a very relaxing game because it's a life simulator. You control people's lives. You're essentially playing God. Another feature I miss from the earlier Sims games is the creepy-ass phone calls. If you've played The Sims 1 or these console ports, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You'd get random phone calls with really cryptic messages. They're officially called prank calls on the Sims Wiki, but I always found them much more creepy and sinister than that. Like, there'll be one that says, "They're coming, be prepared," or "They'll be at your door soon," or something like that. Like, it's very creepy stuff, or "Don't push the button," or "The number 3 is lucky to you today. Your psychic advisor's head has exploded. Be warned." Stuff like that. I'll admit I almost always have used cheat codes, but I'm going to try not using cheat codes for some later playthroughs, and I tried not using them really on the streams that I played The Sims. But obviously sometimes the cheat codes make it fun, other times, it kind of defeats the purpose of a lot of things. So, that said, The Sims is a really fun game series. I particularly like the old 2 console ports that I played. I've never played this. I very briefly played The Sims 3, and I thought it was pretty cool. I've never played The Sims 4, but I do watch a lot of Vinesauce Joel's Sims 4 meme house. That's pretty fun. Not to mention I watch a lot of Call Me Kevin's Sims 4 videos, and those are pretty fun too. But I don't know that I'd ever play the game myself, because it looks like it's really only fun if you put a bunch of mods in it. The Sims is a very fun game series. Obviously it's not for everyone. I know Danny doesn't really like it, because he doesn't really like the whole simulation thing. He finds it kind of boring, and I understand that. Interestingly, there's a lot of Sims spin-offs. Like, the first Sims game technically was SimCity, and then The Sims came later on. But there was also Sim Ant, where you literally played as an ant colony. But The Sims is really fun. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do in it. You can kill people with fires is typically the only way I could really kill people in those console versions. Or starvation. If I was feeling particularly sadistic, I'd trap someone in a room with no door and have them starve to death. I almost never have free will on, because I find free will kind of annoys me in The Sims, when they just do whatever the hell they want, because I'm like, no, you do what I tell you to do, you are my character. which I admit is kind of cruel. But they're digital characters, so who the fuck cares? But yeah, Vlad Blamud was a character I created. He had a very deep lore. There were other recurring characters I created as well, such as a guy who cryogenically froze himself into the future, and he had 2 kids that grew up as the story went on. There was a bunch of other characters we had, but Vlad Blamud was my main one. Obviously, in my stream, I did Dennis Reynolds in the story mode. Yeah, it's a good, relaxing game, and I'll probably get into playing it again once I start streaming at some point, but again, that won't be until after I start streaming again, so... that's all for this episode of Nostalgic Gaming Stories. This has been Fugitive Red-Eye. Have a spadoinkle day, and toodles.
I'm gonna fucking die here, Jack!